guys. This is Engineering Connections for the record. My guest today is an interesting one. I do admire her profession, and we're going to get into that. Guest, you've heard of the word DIY?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how we do introductions here. So do it.
Okay. My name is Cynthia Muchala. I am an architect or an aspiring architect because I'm not yet registered. Yeah, but I'm on my way there. And can I give a little bit about my journey? Yeah. So for my bachelor's, I studied at Nkozi University, Uganda Matters Nkozi.
Okay.
So in Uganda we have, that's what it takes to become an architect. The mainstream method is you go and do a bachelor's for 5 years.
Oof.
Yeah. Yeah, you do a bachelor's for 5 years. It's almost like medicine. And then after the 5 years, you have to work under a registered architect.
Okay.
Then
like some sort of internship?
Yes, for 2 years.
Okay.
At that point, you're a graduate architect.
Okay.
Then after those 2 years, you sit for an exam that certifies you to become an architect.
So is that the point where you get the stamp?
Yeah, that's the point where you get the stamp.
Oh.
Yeah.
So at which point are you in this?
So now, my point is a bit messy. That's where I can start there.
Okay.
So I studied. Now there's another method that's not mainstream, but it's used widely internationally, especially like in the UK.
Okay.
It's called the RIBA. I've forgotten. It's Royal Institute of British some Architecture, something
Okay,
like that.
you guys will find out.
Yes, yes, something like that. So in that system, you study for 3 years undergraduate, and you're studying a Bachelor of Environmental Design.
Okay.
So that gives you a chance to decide what you want to specialize in.
Oh,
So there are many fields an architect can venture into.
Okay.
You can venture into interior designing, there is landscaping, there is construction, you can go into construction, project management.
Which is what you're doing, right? Have you specialized yet or not yet?
Not yet. So that means that if you want to become an architect, you have to do a master's in architecture.
Then that's when you get the stamp.
That's when you get the stamp. Now, I have not yet done the master's. That's where I am. So that's where I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. So I'll just delve a bit into your profession, the way it happens in Uganda. Mm-hmm. If you think about it, when we talk about architects here, and let's talk maybe big projects, right? Yeah, here every profession makes sense. I mean, you have the engineers, they're literally written on the boards, right? However, if we go for, let's say, the private work, you realize that are there architects that are involved? Because sometimes normal people just come up with drawings in AutoCAD and do the thing.
Well, there are so many ways that buildings come up in Uganda. Of course, the most legal and most authentic, or the one that will yield the best results, is to consult an architect.
Yeah.
But then, of course, there is that thing, a lot of people can't afford to consult an architect. And then there are people who can afford but do not value the work of an architect. They're like, you're just going to draw lines, yeah? And they're like, why should I pay so much money for such? They think it's very simple work. Yeah, so there is also that. So what they do, those who can afford a bit, they find a draftsman. A draftsman is not trained to design spaces.
Okay.
A draftsman is simply trained to draw.
Yeah,
to draw. So they go to a draftsman, and that's where you find a lot of buildings or homes or residences or even public spaces that are poorly designed.
Yeah, I mean, the bathroom is next to the kitchen.
Exactly.
And you have the bedroom right where the sun comes out from.
Exactly, because they've not been trained to do that, and people don't want to recognize that.
Okay.
So those are the ways, like some people don't even go to those draftsmen. Someone gets a site, they bring fundi.
I want my bedroom here. This one sitting
and
room.
the fundi sorts it out on their own.
Very interesting. So that comes to the question.
Yes.
Do we need you guys?
You do need us so much. I can explain to you the relevance.
Please do.
Of consulting an architect. Let us start, because the role of an architect is to envision how you're going to use the space.
Yes.
And design a space in a way that accommodates you and whatever you're going to do in that space.
Yeah.
So when you don't do that, you yourself, you're not, because an architect knows all the elements that are going to support what you want.
Yeah.
How much space you need. You say, I'm going to use this space as an office. You're going to put in 4 people, and then you will design a space that can only take 2. And you want to squeeze in all your desks.
Yeah. Please don't point at my desk, but carry on.
Anyway, and then, of course, other elements when it comes to the structure, selecting the materials, when it comes to the legal issues.
The cost is also, you guys go further. It's not just designing. You go including what's the materials, the cost,
a true
everything.
Architect in their true fashion should be able to recommend, in fact, not recommend, they design, because when you're designing, you have to design based on everything, the structure and even the materials. So, for example, a brick wall is not the same thickness as a stone wall.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the surfaces are not the same.
And
so
you finish them differently.
Yes. So when you're designing, you put all that into consideration. They're not independent. They all affect the space and the design of the building.
Just putting it lightly. Won't AI take your jobs?
AI.
Artificial intelligence.
Well, I can't deny the possibility.
Because, think about it. Nowadays, just designing a house, there's this new concepts of virtual reality and what. Literally, in fact, if I were to go as far as Mark Zuckerberg's metaverse. Is this kind of... Are we headed to the future where some of these professions are going to become, I don't want to say irrelevant, but like obsolete?
The correct word is okay. It's the correct word.
Yeah. Okay, now moving on. Still on the how people become architects. There is this thing that really is always at the back of my mind. In the Ugandan community of construction, do we really, since you say people value their money, right? Are architects...
I wouldn't say they value their money. They don't value the service. Yeah,
that's rightly put. Now, since that is happening, do you think also our architects are kind of like morphing or like changing their way of work? Because right now what I see is people get the draftsman, and if it's a really like, let's say, high-rise building or something of the sort, they just head to a registered architect and get a stamp. So is the stamp for sale?
Well, to begin with...
Or is it legal?
To begin with, that's a bit... I'm not going to say it's not legal, but it undermines you, like if you're the architect who's doing that, it could undermine you as a professional because it has legal implications. If anything goes down on that building, it's your stamp, it's you they're going to look for. So most architects, now for example, me who doesn't have a stamp, I work hand in hand with a registered architect. And that person is meant to ensure everything I'm doing is right. By the time they put a stamp on,
so you're getting free training.
Definitely. Yeah.
That's interesting. So I wanted to get your experience with other professionals besides architect, because obviously we are all in we're like in this cocktail of professionals who work hand in hand with each other. So I know you've interfaced with engineers at some point. I know you've interfaced with clients themselves. What is the experience
basically
there?
The team, the whole team,
the entire teams, quantity surveyors. who's the most annoying?
Where do I start? First of all, the most annoying, I will go with contractors and
We apologize. Carry on.
clients. The clients. I mean, the client, and clients also come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. Yeah.
And I get you. I get you.
Now let me give you an example. Like I said earlier, most people don't have the money to pay architects. So someone will come and bargain for a very low fee. But of course, you as a person, don't want to produce substandard work. Much as you're not being paid enough, you're putting in everything for a very little pay. Yeah? And then also this person does not recognize that actually you're being underpaid and they have much more demands than someone who's paying the right fee.
Yeah. I know. That's actually it gets to the point. You guys be working as the consultant for the client, right? That's how it should be.
Yes.
Like on the project. So given I'm a contractor, right? What in your experience, so what you've seen out there, what how can I put it? What is acceptable, like, margin of error, like according to your design? Like
Margin of error.
Yeah, like what can you, since you're a consultant here, if you found me, I've already started on the structure.
You're the contractor.
Yes. And let's say I've changed the material somewhere. Okay, what margin of error is allowed for like a person? Is it supposed to be like strict? This is what I want. Because remember, reproducing something from design is another ball game compared to just envisioning it, and
I get that. Now, margin of error, it's not something that is defined. It has so many determinants. To begin with, if I finish my design, I produce my drawings, and I'm not on site to supervise, and the drawings are not clear, and they're not clearly indicating what the design is like,
and the measurements.
Yeah, then it's on me to produce all the details that are necessary for a project to be carried out without
the right way,
without me even being there. And the other thing that comes with margin of error is the client themselves. A lot of clients will come and tell you, this is what I want, you design it. Then when they get to site, they want to change everything.
That one removed.
And they don't. Now, the problem with that is there is a reason as to why the architect does everything. Like a true architect in their true form has a reason for everything. You're not just going to put a random wall there. There is a reason. Yeah. You're not going to choose a random color. There is a reason. So when the client comes and just changes it, it will look almost as though they didn't even consult an architect. That undervalues their cash that they paid.
Okay.
And then the other thing that affects the margin of error is, of course, the contractors. Sometimes they have their own ideas in their head.
Yes.
Yeah, because naturally in design you're supposed to be innovative. So when you bring something new, a lot of people don't want to adapt to a new idea.
Yeah, so but you guys work hand in hand with a structural engineer, right?
Yes.
Okay, so sometimes experience is the best teacher, right?
Yes.
I mean, so you might have some rebar and it's not making sense because the ground is firm.
Definitely. They all should work hand in hand. The architect should listen to the contractor, and the contractor should listen to the architect. Although, if you're the one with the vision, then the contractor has to pay attention first then propose and okay, you're saying this, but it's not possible in this and such a way.
The reason why I wanted to bring that picture out is for the benefit of our viewers, because people always think this is like it's a client and the contractor, and this in this case the fundi, or like we need to make a case for professionals, because otherwise I don't think there's people would say it, especially in the private sector. They always take this for granted because I always think that the checks and balances require three people at least. That is the client, and maybe whoever is managing that side, whichever contract manager they're using, if it's an architect or contractor, what, and the consultant, such that it's like a triangle of things.
Yeah.
So, that having been said, another one for you. I've been following your career bit. At some point, you are writing
Yes.
for a magazine.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Now I took on the whole writing thing because I enjoy writing. I'm an aspiring writer.
Among other things.
Among other things.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, of course, when it comes to priorities, you get on, you write, then you stop a bit, then you write again. Yeah, so I took it on because I enjoy writing. And yeah, well, what can I say?
Yeah, like you do write about this industry, right? And I wanted to get your view on, are there any new like technologies out there that you've tried to write about or that you've done some research about? And also, what is like the rate of assimilation of this tech on our like in the Ugandan industry? Because we're looking at things that have been around for a long time. Obviously, things like new cements, that is, I can't consider that new tech. I'd want something like, are there any new things that contractors are doing out there?
Contractors.
Or architects, just really feel free with the question.
Okay, I won't go so much into contractors because I'm not so specific in that area. I'll go with architects as far as the Ugandan market is concerned. I feel that we are moving towards, or even we need to move towards innovation. We need to move towards solving problems as opposed to generic designs. Like someone comes to you, they want a house. What problem are you solving?
Someone comes, they want a bungalow, you have somewhere in the shelf, eh?
Yeah, you just pop out. No, like what? And every project has its own unique problem you're solving. And in Africa or even in Uganda, we have a lot of problems. People don't have money. People don't have money. Yeah. People don't have all like energy, electricity, materials when it comes to labor, all that. As when you're designing, what problem are you solving? I think we need to see more of that. And I've seen some people who are already doing that, although it's not mainstream.
Awesome. Oh yeah, and it's not cheap.
And it's not cheap. Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, another one again. Best and worst experience. Now, this is from your work, the work you do. You understand? Like, just pick out one or two best experiences and one or two. Because we need to tell these people, our viewers, that when you get into this field, you expect some of these things.
Yeah.
You understand? Yeah. And maybe you weren't paid or sleepless nights. I don't know. Just pick one.
Well, best experience, my best experiences in my profession, unfortunately, are when I'm working on projects that will never be built. And guess where I find these projects? Competitions, architecture competitions. Because what I like about them, you're free to think. You're free to think outside the box. You're free to be very extremely innovative. Like the sky is your limit. While these real projects, like you have a real client, real money, real everything. Yeah, you're limited. You're limited in so many ways.
Are they a bore? Maybe.
Be honest, they are.
Maybe
Like,
one of our viewers out there is going to come for those designs that you think will never be
please
built.
do. Please do. You can get in touch with me. I'll show you all my projects. Of course, some of them I didn't win. I've won, are they 3 or 2
Wow.
competitions? Anyway, yeah, some of them I didn't win, but you can come and I show you.
For free.
I worked. No, of course, when I show you it's free, but if you want to consult me, you have to pay me. I worked on low-cost housing competitions, like 2 of them. I worked on a small dwelling competition. Last year, I worked on, it was more of a solving a social problem. It was for women empowerment. Yeah, I worked on that. I didn't win, unfortunately.
But I think you're going places. You're going places.
Yeah, so that they're fun because you feel like you're really solving a problem. You're adding some sort of impact. Yeah, and then that's my best. Then the worst. Where do I start?
Everyone literally says that.
Where do I start? Let me start with school.
Yeah.
School, when I was going to campus, when I was in high school going to campus, people discouraged me. There are people who really pushed me to go into the course, and there are people who discouraged me. Mm-hmm. They told me you will not have a social life, you're not going to sleep. We see those guys who study architecture, you go to sleep, you find them in studio the next morning, they don't sleep. Me, I thought, that won't be me. That won't be me.
And here you are.
I'll manage. What?
5 years, 7 years down the road.
Now, it was real. There was no sleeping.
I know. I think with that sort of, because I feel like you're artists that are kind of like you're created, like you're smelted, you're taken through that entire, like, it's like when you get how can I say, like a barber, right? There are guys who are naturals.
Yeah.
But now there are guys who
have to be trained.
Yeah. So, and if your people are going to sleep in your thing, man, you kind of have to put in the work.
Yeah, like there was no sleeping. There was a lot to be sacrificed. Yeah, but all in all, I loved school, I think, better than real life.
Out of 10, would you recommend it?
Out of 10, architecture?
Yes.
Yeah, I would.
10 out of 10 recommendation.
Of course, it depends on the person.
Yeah.
Not everyone is built for it. Not everyone is meant for it. But if it's what you think...
What are the qualities you maybe, like because just from what you've said, if I'm to mention a few qualities. One, you have to be okay with not sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe but, work under pressure.
Again, of course, they say, can I take this call?
Yeah, sure.
Hello?
So, right? Self-deprivation. Work under pressure. What else? You have to be, is smart a prerequisite? Or you can really stumble through the thing?
It's about, everyone has something to bring to the table, to be honest. It's not smart necessarily, but yeah.
Yeah, you have to kind of, I don't know, well, what's the word? I think it's a profession of creatives.
Yeah. Kind
of. Okay. So, you did one, you're talking about a few things here about contractors, what we do. This is your turn, man. Have some fun with it. What do you need to know?
About contractors. I need to find out what happens with our drawings when they get to site. When do things change? Like,
The reason why, like I told you, right? One, when you're inside, things really do change because, one, you guys have this contraption, like, drawn up, and for us, we're like on the ground. You understand? And once you're on the ground and you start implementing, some of these things start showing themselves. And this may come from if there were no like comprehensive studies by the architect about like the piece of land, because like you said, some people just pick out a drawing for like a bungalow and then we just go and roll with it.
Exactly.
So I think that is how the industry works here. And we kind of like, just like the architects, were becoming something that the clients need, because that's where the money is. However, I always go for, is that the right thing to do? Because I think for the purposes of like this podcast and what, we need to let people know like what is the best way of like going around this profession or this industry at large.
Best way in terms of what?
Like, okay, if I'm to put it straight, if you're to have like the perfect project, right? How would you envision it? Like, what are the qualities of the client you'd expect? Things like, do they need to have the entire team? Yeah. Like, what do you think would be your perfect project? Actually, let's consider even one of your competitions. Yes.
I like your question very much. The perfect project always begins with the client. What does the client want? Does the client know what they want? Most clients come, they have no idea what they want, they don't know, and you have to think for them. And even then, what they want, do they want it for the right reasons? Why I'm saying that is, for example, someone comes and tells you, I want to build a commercial plaza, but the place I want to build it in,
it's squeezed.
Not even squeezed. Think about the context. You're putting a plaza in a place where no one will ever be able to access it. You understand?
Maybe in a residential area.
And for you already, as an architect, you're thinking doesn't make business sense, but they want it
fit
there.
for purpose.
Exactly. They want it there. So it begins with a client. Yeah. And then the client, sometimes the clients go to contractors first, because you told me you do design and build, and then the contractor hires. Yeah. But then still, when it comes to the architect, now the qualities of the architect, like I said earlier, solving problems. Solving problems. For example, now the client who wants a commercial plaza, they want the out to make money. Everything you do should be to make that person make the most out of that investment. And then the contractors, of course. Now, another thing that ruins projects, someone can have a very good design, then the contractors use poor quality materials, poor quality workmanship.
As assigned by the client.
But of course, also the client has to be willing to put in that investment. Because of course, when you want to make money, the more you put in, the more you get. You put in little, you don't get.
That's interesting.
And then the other people, you need structural engineers to estimate the strength of the materials, the strength of the building, reinforcement. And ideally, the architect should work hand in hand with the structural engineer. That's why,
dream team,
to avoid those problems you're saying, you get to site and things are not what is on paper. And then also, I think what happened in your case is the surveyor was not involved. Proper surveying with the proper topography, proper sizing. Some people will design a house that is bigger than the site. Doesn't fit.
And you have to shrink it.
You go to site, you're like, what's the word? My lord. Yes. Anyway, the surveyor. And then, of course, finally, I don't know if that's finally, but the other person, quantity surveyor, or someone who can do the costing, because you want to manage costs as much as possible. Like I'm talking about, this is the dream team where you're going to get the most out of it. You're going to maximize your money, your profits, your everything. Who have I left out?
I think the
electrical.
fundi.
Oh yeah. Now of course there is also electrical and mechanical.
Yeah.
That comes in. For example, me as an architect, I would be concerned about.
It will come in before, right?
No,
because they do have their drawings
They
as well.
come in sometime after the design is on its way.
Okay.
Yeah, but I would be concerned about, say, placing of the sockets. You design a bedroom, most likely your client will put their head there. And you put the socket
on the opposite ends. Well, you have to make things work sometimes.
And this is what I'm saying, why people need to consult architects. Because you as a person, you're not trained, so you will never see these things.
Until when you're moving into your bedroom.
Exactly.
And that is why we have extensions, these trunkings, poor planning, basically.
Exactly. And then, of course, finally, you mentioned the fundi. When it comes to fundis, there are some fundis vanange. The bricklaying poor, like they do it very poorly. And then there are some who are really neat. They want to get the job done. They're very professional. Yeah. So
I'll put that, like, if I'm to rate that, I'll put like a 9 out of 10. Why? The money. How are we going to afford all these people?
How are you going to afford all these people? Unfortunately, all these people need money.
Exactly.
And that's why you see most projects are like very substandard. But
is that because I wanted this to lead into the next question? Is that the reason why these buildings are falling all around us?
There's a huge chance, because now the reason as why sometimes they consult architects, they do the work, and then the client decides to bring the quality of cement, the quality of the materials. They recommend certain bars. You think you're so smart, you're going to get a different size of bars.
And somewhere in there, things happen.
And then also the contractors or the fundis, maybe they give them the right materials, and then they want to kuva njaulo. Those things like that.
Well, I always get to myself at this point of thinking, where is the entire industry just full of loopholes? In your opinion?
It is, because also the other big problem we have is law enforcement. The laws are there. Yes. Like, you find a building that has been approved, and you're like, who approved this?
Yeah, that's true.
Because if we had very good law enforcement, then I think that would also make things a little bit better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just to conclude, and at this point, this is rapid for you. You can also fire questions back. Just because you mentioned about your career, but I wanted to put it clearly for maybe one or two people out there who are really interested in pursuing. What does it look like in form of employment? Do you need to know someone to get into, like, what advice would you give to some of these people if this is the path they've chosen?
Someone wants to become an architect. When it comes to knowing someone, of course, it always helps, regardless. Knowing someone is always a plus, but at the end of the day, the quality of your work or your work ethic is what will take you through or sustain you. Sometimes it will even open doors for you. So you have to have a very good work ethic. And also, by the way, in my profession, it is rare that you're going to say you're trying to get a job. Someone wants to see your transcript. No. Someone wants to see your qualifications. It doesn't matter if you've done even a PhD. At the end of the day,
it's the work.
It's designed, so it's about the work. How do you know your way around?
Still sorry for cutting you short. Does that also include that you have to practice? And which programs call like right now? Is it
Eh.
AutoCAD? Is
Now
it,
you have to have
what is,
a
and what is the
very
future?
you have to have a very open mind because things change all the time. What you know right now may not be what is relevant next year. Of course, right now people are using ArchiCAD and AutoCAD and SketchUp and many. I'm not so much into those graphic programs, but of course, the main role of an architect is not. Those programs are just tools to help you express.
Computer aided design.
Yes, to express what is in
Is
your
in the
mind.
head, yeah.
It's about using your mind, thinking, solving problems, being innovative, being creative. Yeah, and you had asked me people who want to join.
Yeah.
If you want to join, first of all, patience is key. Yeah, patience, hard work. Like you have to be willing to push yourself to the limit. You have to have an open mind, because an architect, you'll never stop learning. Even if you leave school, even however old you are, you always have to learn. That's why they say an architect knows something about everything.
Yeah, something about everything.
Yeah,
Yes.
because I mean, how you have to know almost. You have to read.
You have to know the entire profession. The
You
entire
have to
industry.
you have to read all the time. Someone comes to you, design a hospital. You don't know anything about sick people. You don't know. Then the other day you'll be in a restaurant. The other day you'll be in a whole different thing. So you have to be very agile. Yeah, for me, that's my understanding of what someone needs
to make them tick. So, when you become a registered architect, can our viewers come for some discounts?
Yeah, definitely. Your viewers can come for discounts.
All right. Thank you for coming through. That is it for me. I don't know if you maybe have something to add or I don't know. Feel free at this time. And maybe you can say bye to our viewers after that.
Well, what can I add? I can just maybe emphasize because I feel like people don't value
The service.
the service. Yeah, but I think I've hinted in so many ways. I've hinted on why it's important to consult an architect. So because I see it a lot, and it's something that bothers me. Even now look at your kitchen. Look at that. I don't know if they will show it in your video, whatever.
They will.
But someone took an idea from somewhere and just planted it there without thinking, how do people in Uganda use their kitchen or their space? Most people in Uganda will have a sigiri.
True.
Yeah, they will have a sigiri. They will need a back door somewhere. I don't know why, but that is how we are.
Yeah.
So you need to put those things into consideration.
That is very interesting because we're going to conclude by now. Once you brought that up, I was going to... Do you think that is the same spirit that is going into this apartment kind of dwelling? Do people just kind of get designs that make like the most... once someone says 2 bedrooms, people just hear money once they hear that 2-bedroom apartment. There's actually even a standard, and yet you might find that those bedrooms are smaller or like that kind of thing. So as architects, I also think this is maybe where you guys kind of need to voice your concerns, especially because we're going into urban living.
Yeah.
And like you've just mentioned, the kitchen, we kind of have to use the minimalistic kind of design. So do you guys have like something in mind that maybe our viewers can approach you later
Something
to
in
solve
mind.
like these designs of urban dwelling? Do you have something tucked away in your designs that you mentioned?
I'm not getting that question though.
Okay, I'll reiterate. Considering,
What I just mentioned about the kitchen.
yes, I was asking, do you have anything to solve that problem? Let me put it plainly
Now,
that way.
what
Yes.
I have to
A
solve
design.
that problem
Yes.
is to begin with that I'm trying to point out what happens when you're not consulting a good architect. That's why I pointed out the kitchen.
Yeah,
but of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
you may say you've consulted an architect and they're not good. They're
Good,
not
yeah, yeah.
thinking, they're not being innovative, they're not trying to solve a problem, they just want to put things on paper. So those are two things.
Different
The
things,
solution is it's good to consult. It will save you a lot because I mean these buildings are here forever unless you plan on, I don't know what you plan on, but they're here forever, so you need to think long term. Much as it's costly, but thinking long term will go a long way, because if say this person built these apartments, maybe they will go on for generations and generations of their children, their children's children. And if you did not done something good to begin with, then at some point those are the buildings that in the UK they usually demolish. They demolish buildings a lot. And you find they're demolishing. I don't know if that will come here in Uganda, but yeah. Anyway, so that's what I'm saying. Consulting professionals and good professionals at that, and of course valuing their knowledge, because maybe the professional advised them something else and they insisted. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's been a very, very insightful conversation from you, Cynthia. We'll approach you for that discount. But for now, I think that is it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the end of the podcast, and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you too.
And that's a wrap.
Happy December.